Geralt continued to rest in the temple of the goddess Melitele. His body was still scarred by the wounds left from the night's battle with the Striga. Healing potions, bandages, and the priestess's prayers gradually restored his strength, though deep down he knew the scars would remain forever as a reminder. Nenneke often came to his cell. Her stern, ironic gaze accompanied every conversation. She continued to reproach the Witcher for his way of life, saying he lived only for fights and blood, always seeking clashes with monsters. "You are condemning yourself," she said evenly. "The Witcher's mutations made you strong and resilient, but not immortal. And one day your strength will not be enough," Geralt replied calmly, almost indifferently. To him, these were obvious truths he had accepted long ago. His life was a path where sword, signs, and death always accompanied him. But he did not see it as a tragedy. He was who he had become since childhood, when he underwent the trials and rituals at Kaer Morhen. Disputes often arose between them. Nenneke reminded him that the world was not only monsters and money from contracts. She tried to awaken something human in him, stressing the value of faith, goodness, and compassion. The Witcher, on the contrary, viewed it through the lens of his own experience. He had seen how faith and holiness coexisted with cruelty and hatred. Despite these disputes, there was a bond between them, full of mutual respect. Geralt valued Nenneke for her frankness, and she saw in him not only a mutant, but also a man who, though never admitting it aloud, still carried remnants of kindness in his heart. When the pain began to subside and the wounds to heal, the Witcher was allowed to go into the temple courtyard. Amid the silence and scent of flowers, he often sat on a bench, lost in his thoughts. There he felt brief moments of peace, a rare state he lacked in a world full of blood and monsters. But peace never lasted long. Dreams brought him back to the past, to encounters with monsters, the people who hired him, and the choices he had made. Dreams in which truth and memory intertwined, forming a peculiar mosaic. And through one such memory begins the next story. Geralt's meeting with a monster that turned out to be closer to human than humans themselves. Geralt's path led through deserted fields and forests. The day was gloomy, the wind swayed the branches of the trees, and the silence around felt unnatural. The Witcher noticed tracks that led him deeper toward an old estate, once wealthy, but now abandoned. The stone walls were entwined with ivy, the windows shattered, the gate rusted. The entire place exuded oppressive loneliness. By the gate, he came upon a horrific sight. The body of a woman, torn and shredded, lay among the weeds. Her face was frozen in an expression of terror, her arms outstretched as if she had tried to flee. Geralt bent down to examine the wounds more closely. They were too deep and chaotic, made by claws or fangs, not the work of ordinary beasts. He cautiously entered the courtyard, his hand on the hilt of his sword. Inside, amid the remnants of former grandeur, he was met by the Master, a creature both terrifying and imposing. It was a man whose body was deformed by beastly traits, fangs, hairy skin, claws, and inhuman face. His name was Nivellen. Instead of attacking, the monster spoke in a human voice. It carried irony, bitterness, and at the same time keen intelligence. Geralt, though tense, did not draw his sword. Their dialogue unfolded quickly. Nivellen explained that he was cursed. Once he had been a man, the son of a wealthy lord, but through cruel deeds and a profane life, he was turned into a monster. A sorceress he had wronged cast a spell on him. Now he bore the form of a beast, and had to live in isolation. Geralt listened intently. He was used to most monsters being embodiments of horror and darkness, but this one was different. His speech, his behavior, all testified to a human mind and heart hidden beneath the inhuman form. Nivellen invited the Witcher to his hall. There the former splendor could still be felt. Stone walls, tall columns, furniture, dusty yet sturdy. The table was laden with food and wine. Geralt did not refuse the offering, though he remained cautious. Gradually, the host spoke of his life. Despite the curse, he had learned to live in isolation, even finding amusements. He inspired fear in the surroundings, and the peasant girls brought to him under threat were not harmed. He only sought their company. Though he could not rid himself of his cruel nature entirely, Geralt was especially unsettled by the mention of a woman who now lived in the estate with Nivellen. He called her Vereena. She had appeared a few months ago and since then had stayed by his side. Nivellen described her as mysterious, cold, yet strangely attached to him. The Witcher did not like this combination, a cursed host and a woman who had come to him of her own accord. Knowledge stirred in his memory. Too often, such stories concealed a truth more terrible than appearances. At night, Geralt could not sleep for a long time. Something in Nivellen's story gave him no peace. He knew he had to uncover this mystery to the end. The next day, Geralt decided to observe the estate and its master more closely. Nivellen behaved calmly, even cordially, yet his manner carried tension, especially when the subject turned to the woman living with him. In the evening, she appeared, Vereena. Her figure was delicate, cloaked in dark garments, and her face pale and beautiful, almost unnatural in its beauty. Her eyes seemed deep, yet cold, like a night lake. When she looked at the Witcher, his body was pierced by a sense of threat, though the woman herself moved gracefully and silently. Nivellen treated her tenderly like a man with his beloved, though he himself looked like a monster. In his voice, when he spoke to her, warmth and fear resounded at once. He was afraid of losing her. Geralt, however, sensed something troubling in Vereena. His intuition, honed by years of hunting monsters, told him this was no mere woman. There was too much silence in her, too much unnatural coldness. That same night, he could not sleep. Sitting by the window, he noticed movement in the garden. Vereena walked among the thickets, her steps soundless, her figure as if not touching the ground. In the depths of the garden, she stopped and looked around. Her eyes glowed in the darkness, and her face lost its human likeness. Something otherworldly appeared in it. The Witcher realized the truth. Vereena was not a woman, but a Bruxa, a vampire-like creature that fed on human life force. He stepped forward, preparing for battle. But Vereena did not attack. Her voice, when she spoke for the first time, was quiet and melodic, yet cold. "I mean him no harm," she said. "Nivellen gave me shelter. He is different from other people. I stayed because he did not fear me." Geralt answered sharply that she was a threat. Her nature was inhuman, and sooner or later it would show. Vereena only smiled sadly. Her eyes flashed, and for a moment long fangs appeared in the darkness. At that moment, a cry was heard. It was Nivellen. He ran out, alarmed, seeing Vereena standing before the Witcher. His voice tore through the silence. "Don't touch her! She is mine." Vereena turned to him, and something human was reflected in her face. Sorrow, love, and despair. She reached her hands toward him, but it was the last thing she managed to do. The Witcher was already holding his silver sword, and the clash was inevitable. An explosion of force, movement, and sound. Vereena lunged at him with incredible speed. Her claws sliced the air. Sparks flew from the blows against the blade. Geralt felt her power. She was no ordinary monster. She was a being capable of both love and killing. The fight was brutal. Geralt struck precise blows, but Vereena did not stop. And then Nivellen rushed between them, spreading his arms, begging for forgiveness. His voice broke into a cry. "I love her!" Vereena froze, her eyes full of gleam and darkness fixed on him. She touched his face, and in that moment, Nivellen's curse began to break. Love, pure and true, was the key. Her body shuddered, and she let out a scream that echoed among the ruins. Then she fell to the ground, motionless. Geralt lowered his sword. Nivellen bent over her, his hands trembling. At that very moment, his own body began to change. The beastly traits disappeared, his face becoming human again. The curse was lifted, thanks to love that proved stronger than darkness. But Vereena had died. Her death was the price of this liberation. Geralt remained silent. He knew, in a world where good and evil intertwine, there are no simple stories. There is only a shard of truth, small, cruel, and yet real. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the retelling and want to hear the continuation, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share your comments. See you in the next videos.